Welcome back to Smpte 2017. We are at the Avid booth today talking to Drew and Daniel about Dolby Atmos. Welcome.
How you going?
Hi, how you
Not
going?
too bad. Now, for those people out there that don't know what Dolby Atmos is, what is it?
Essentially what it is it's a format that allows you to get the best version of the mix for whichever room you're in.
Okay.
That's really the secret to it. Once you configure the room, it will play back that mix using beds and objects, basically to give you the best rendering of that mix for that environment. That's the easiest way to explain it, really. The technical details are that there's 128 channels, a bed of 10 channels, and then the objects after that to give you high resolution panning.
Okay. So how many speakers do you need to have a simple Dolby Atmos setup?
Essentially, you're going to have speaker sets with some overheads to give you that overhead resolution.
Right.
In mixers rooms, they'll sometimes have 5.1.4 with some overheads, but you'll be in theaters, they can have up to 64 speakers around their room to recreate that mix.
Okay. Now, do you know roughly how many cinemas are out there that actually have the Dolby Atmos?
Yeah,
in Australia?
there's 2,700 cinemas around the world that have Dolby Atmos installed. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, now that's a little bit on Dolby Atmos, but today we're actually going to be talking about Pro Tools and how the integration with Dolby Atmos is going to help a lot of filmmakers and audio engineers give you that really sweet mix. So let's talk through it.
Okay, so I mean, essentially, all of the big Hollywood productions have been worked on Pro Tools, and of course, as the Dolby Atmos format started becoming more popular, we decided to work with Dolby to integrate that into Pro Tools to basically make the engineers' lives easier so that their creative workflow could be more efficient. Previously, you would require extra plugins to control that object data. And so what we've done is integrated that directly into Pro Tools so that you can control the panning of those objects directly with the channel panner in Pro Tools to make that a lot more streamlined for the engineer.
Right. So, okay, so let's say I've got various effects and various voices. How easy is it to actually put it into a Dolby Atmos mix?
Sure. So when you set up the Dolby Atmos connection, we connect directly to the RMU or to the local renderer software, and that allows you to have the metadata for the panning and the object names come directly into Pro Tools.
Right.
When you set up your bus, a great example is usually you'd have a dialogue bed, and your dialogue traditionally is going to come out of your center speaker a lot of the time. But when you want to do something interesting, like have that voice come out a single speaker out the back of the room for an effect, you can now turn that into an object, turn on snap to speaker, so it comes from one speaker directly to behind you to give really nice, single point of audio to keep you in that environment. And the engineer can very simply go between a bus and the object, either in the application or from their console.
Okay, cool. So Drew, what do you do with Avid?
Okay, I'm one of the audio specialists at Avid. So I'm based in Australia. I look after Australia, New Zealand, and some of Southeast Asia. So yeah, we take care of Pro Tools, being S6, S6L, Sibelius.
Okay, right.
Pretty much all things audio.
That's cool, easy.
Yeah.
And how do you like the Dolby Atmos setup that they've got now?
It is really, really good. Like originally there was a lot of workarounds to try and get Dolby Atmos to happen, but the way that it's integrated into Pro Tools now, it just makes mixing so much easier. And this is going to be the new way to mix. You've already heard that Netflix are going to be doing, supporting it. So, everyone's going to have this at home.
Correct, yeah. And I think over the last year, as I was saying earlier to these guys, that Dolby Atmos, around a year ago, there wasn't really many films, and 4K and all that other stuff that's out there now wasn't a thing. But a lot of people ask, what's Dolby Atmos? And people are like, oh, it's just that thing that you have planes or things flying overhead. But now that it's so simple in Pro Tools to actually combine that in, it's giving the freedom to have nearly every film say, okay, you don't have to be restricted, it's already built in, and we don't have to spend more money to get something so simple in it. And especially as Daniel was saying.
It's, the idea behind it is you mix once in Atmos and you can re-render it for many types of rooms, but at the same time, you can also do 7.1, 5.1 and stereo re-rendering of that mix. So it actually saves time. Traditionally, people would do like a stereo, a 5.1, a 7.1 mix all separately and have to go back and spend a lot of time. So now if they mix in Atmos, they can re-render in those different formats really, really easily.
And I think like from uni, I was there and everyone's like, we don't do 5.1 mixes. Because people are like, yeah, it's stereo, and then we've got 5.1, and then we're like, we don't want to remix. But if you just basically do it in Dolby Atmos, you can go back, resample it, and do everything, and it's already ready to go. You don't have to continue.
And also, let's not think that the limitation is just film. We've heard some great mixes from Infected Mushroom and Matt Lang, who are DJs and musicians who are doing mixes in Dolby Atmos. We've already seen Ministry of Sound are doing nightclubs that are Dolby Atmos.
I think that's the best thing.
This is going to be an amazing format that everyone's going to jump on board with.
Like if you had a concert or like anything that's on stage, to have a Dolby Atmos mix, I think it's key, and especially having those objects. I think that's where I always say, you can say to the viewer, okay, you want to experience it now, you can experience the same effect later on your couch.
Exactly, and what Dolby's done a really great job with is they've partnered with a lot of the AV companies to help put their technology into televisions and AV receivers, so you can get a really immersive experience even at home.
Yeah.
So that's a great part about the technology. It's so scalable, and for us to put these tools into Pro Tools, it's just really to allow people to be creative in a new environment. So hopefully the tools are transparent and just give the engineers a chance to be creative in a new field with that 3D audio.
Yeah, they don't need to think about the technical stuff. They can just be in the moment, being creative.
And I think as I've seen over the years, Dolby Atmos and the Dolby demos that people produce are getting more and more complex, and they sound so nice, especially in like the shops for people that are getting right into Dolby Atmos and they don't know, they can experience this really nice sound without having a huge setup.
No.
Over this last year, with especially like big names like Sony, Panasonic as well.
LG recently released a television that's got Sony Vision as well as Atmos.
Yeah,
and to achieve that in a home, they will use like a sound bar that's like, we're talking about different specs before, but like 2.1.2, meaning stereo with a sub, and then some overheads that will reflect off the roof, so you don't have to go to the effort of installing speakers in your roof to actually get that beginnings of that immersive environment.
Yeah, and LG, like I've been in sales for a while, and like their TVs now have Dolby Atmos in the screen.
Yeah.
Like you don't even need speakers here, you just have the screen. And I have so many people come back and say, wow, Dolby Atmos.
Yeah, and wait till VR becomes a thing, and we want immersive sound with our VR headsets.
Yeah.
You can have some binaural headphones on, or some app, and be able to experience being in the moment.
And they've already started bringing out Dolby Atmos for the computer as well. So now with those headsets, do you know if they're going to be integrated into like Pro Tools? Is there going to be anything if you're on the go?
We're paying careful attention to what's happening in the ambisonics and VR world. We'll be looking into some of that stuff a little bit.
That's always good to hear. I love it.
Yeah, a little bit later. We can't say too much at this point.
Okay, yeah.
But I think the links that we've gone to integrate Dolby, so the Dolby Atmos format so deeply into Pro Tools, is an indication of how seriously we take that market, and that we want all the engineers that love Pro Tools, love our surfaces, to have those tools directly and easily for them for the various formats that are out there.
And I think I like that. Like a lot of the time, people are on the go, then people go back to the studio and saying it's already built into it, and then something coming soon or later in the next few years for headphones. It's just saying that you don't have to be in a studio to experience that whole mix.
And a lot of the technology we put into even Pro Tools, beginning of Pro Tools 12, is that we know it can be a big problem, people moving between different rooms for different formats, whether it be 5.1, 7.1, Atmos, stereo. They're not always going to have those speakers, so we've put technology in that will automatically down mix for whatever monitors that you have. So when you're going between your preparation room and your mixing room, it's much more seamless than it was before. Yeah.
Anyway, that's all that we have time for today with Avid. We're actually going to be back soon talking about the new libraries in Pro Tools and how awesome those are. But thank you again, Drew and Daniel.
Thank you.
And
Thanks very much.
Enjoy the rest of Smpte on the last day, and hope to see you in 2 years' time. Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.